Good morning, my dear friends. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Kaisa hai, kasakai. I hope you all have been good, my dear friends. I hope you all are doing good and awesome. Firstly, I'm so happy, my dear friends, that yesterday on its third attempt, right, Chandrayaan was landed on the moon. India was on the moon. So the one thing that we should definitely learn from Chandrayaan is that even scientists take attempts, right? But they come back and they come back stronger, right? And I feel that is a very important lesson that we can take from that, right, Shravantika? Right, right, Sakit? Yes. So I don't give a damn, frankly, that whether this is your second attempt, third attempt, or fourth attempt, you are coming back stronger. You are coming back with more hard work, with more resilience, with more discipline. And you are making a comeback just like Chandrayaan 3. Okay, kudos to the scientists of ISRO, kudos to the spirit of India. Yesterday it just felt as if, on Delhi station, Churchgate station, people out there in the roads, people there in their respective organizations. It was crazy. It was crazy moment yesterday, guys, as if India has won, finals in World Cup. It just felt like that. It was like a celebration. It was as if we all have won yesterday. We were all together, right? So that was something amazing that happened yesterday, guys. And I'm so happy and I'm so glad that we were able to witness it all yesterday, right? So, guys, today clearly, okay, we are here to revise, to basically do statutory amendments, right, for intercede, correct? November 23. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Okay. Chalo, fatavat se let's do it. Yes. Okay, guys. Okay. Okay, guys. So the very first amendment, my dear friends, okay, is supply under GST. Okay. So the first amendment here is, my dear friends, very simple. And by the way, understand that I am taking amendments of May 23 also and November 23 also. So we are talking about all the amendments that are applicable to the November 23 attempt, right? And I am helping you all go through all the things that are applicable to you, right? Okay. The first activity, my dear friends, is activity and transactions between a person other than individual and its member. So basically, if there is an unincorporated association and its members, the position was very, you know, ambiguous before, and which is why they have created another taxable event apart from 71A, B, C. There is now 71AA, which specifically states that if there is unincorporated association and its members, and if there is any, okay, supply of goods or service for a consideration, then first things first, let me make it very clear that unincorporated association members are distinct person, a distinct person. First assumption is that they are separate persons, and second is that whatever transaction, my dear friends, happens between them is a supply. Okay, and is a supply under section 71AA. Is that very clear? Perfect. That makes sense. That makes sense, guys. Okay. So that is one thing that we've already studied, right? Second is perquisites. Understand? So whenever we talk about 7 subsection 2, we talk about cases which are not a supply. right? So if there is an employee and there is an employer, there is an employee and there is an employer, and my dear friends, the employee is giving service, an employer in return gives some remuneration. Now that remuneration can be in the form of salary, bonus, pension, premature termination. One more addition to the list is perquisites. So the clarity is given with respect to perquisites, that even perquisites are received during the course of employment, and hence no GST shall apply, because that will tantamount to not a supply. Okay. Second, non-compete fees and directors. You already know the position out here. It was just the perquisite that needed to be revisited, and which is why we are doing the same. Right. Next. Next, my dear friends, is with respect to 7(1)(a), right? So there was an issue with respect to this this thing called refrain from doing an act, tolerate an act. Now this actually tantamounts to supply of service, right? Now the question is, okay, this is definitely supply of service, but the question is, what is a supply and what is not a supply? That needs to be defined. Okay, so basic definition of that comes out finally here is that there should be an express agreement and the consideration must flow in return for contract. Okay, when I say there is an express agreement, that means that the supplier is looking forward, you know, for this event to happen. It's a positive event for him, and for that he is getting the consideration, right? You can easily see that, especially in all those cases where we are doing supply, right? One is non-compete fees, right? So, for example, I was an ex-employee of Infosys, and now I'm going to TCS. And Infosys gets to know that. Infosys then offers me a non-compete fees that you will not go to TCS, because if you will go to TCS, you will also take our clients with TCS, and which is what we don't want. So you sign this non-compete fee contract, and we will pay you 3 times of your salary. And at least for the next 3 years, you are not going there, right? So obviously, if I am an ex-employee signing this contract, I'm looking forward to earn money for not doing anything, for refraining from doing an act, and it's a positive contract. I'm specifically doing a contract that this event should happen, right? And which is why it is a supply. Second, shopkeeper allowing a hawker to operate from a common pavement in front of a shop. Very simple. So obviously understand that I have 1,000 meters square feet as my place, right? And that's my property. Now, in the first 200 square feet, there is an open space, and after that, my shop starts. And a hawker wants to actually do business there. I say, okay, fine, you do the business, but understand, you can do the business only if you pay me a certain rent. So there is an express agreement out there where I am renting him out the property, okay, and he is paying me the money. So I'm tolerating his act of, doing business in my premises where he's earning money, right? But only at a cost. And that cost is the rent that he pays. Okay, correct, right? किसका एग्जाम्पल दे दूं बेटा? एग्जाम्पल दे ही तो रहा हूं. I'm actually giving you examples, right? Next is, my dear friends, third case. Customer cancellation charges. Clearly, this is a case, my dear friends, with hotel booking, with flight booking, right? Where at the very outset, right, the airline company tells to the recipient that, listen, boss, once you book the tickets, you will not get the refund because I've booked the ticket, okay, and that is ensuring the fact that I am not letting anyone else sit on your seat, and it's reserved for you. It's reserved for you. Now, if you don't land up coming, okay, for me that seat is sold. For me that seat is sold. Now you come, you don't come, I don't give a damn. I have sold that seat. If you come, fair enough, I'll be very happy to serve you. But if not, then so. So understand here, I have sold that seat to you. Now, if you come, it's fine. If you don't come, it's fine. Right? So that is the case. And it's a positive agreement because I have the intention to give you service. Now, if you don't want it, that's not my problem. Right? Because I can't keep running my business like this. Like this, everyone will book, and then finally on the last moment, they will take the refund. And I will realize that my flight is actually going vacant. So my fuel cost, my pilot cost, my electricity cost, everything is going for a toss. It's bloody coming at a cost that will further increase my losses. So I can't do that, right? So that is one thing definitely happening. Acha, charges on prepayment of loan. So the bank specifically tells the borrower that listen, boss, you have taken a loan for 10 years. Now you repay it in 10 years only. Make sure that you don't default and make sure you also don't prepay this. Because I have considered you as my customer whom I have given loan for 10 years. Now, if you want to pay within 2 years, fine, but you will have to pay a small prepayment fee of 0.25% of the loan amount. Because understand, now I'll have to hunt for another person whom I will have to give the loan. Right? And someone actually asked for me, but I couldn't give him because I had already exhausted my resources by giving you that loan. Right? So please, okay, you will have to pay that prepayment fees. Right? And it's an express agreement that the bank and the borrower gets into at the very outset of the agreement, at the very starting of the agreement. Right? So it is a supply, okay, where the bank is tolerating your act of what? Of repaying the money before the redemption date, before the maturity date. Correct? Yes. Yes, Shravantika, we just uploaded yesterday's RTP class. Okay. Do check it around. In the live section, you can definitely see it. Okay. You can just type RTP November 23 and you will find my lecture. So most of them have been covered, Palak, but there are few, there are few aspects of exemptions which I feel here and there were remaining. So if you can just stay and attend, it's just 1.5 hour session. We will wrap it up quickly. Okay. So that's it. Just 1.5 hour session, and it will also help you revise things. And also, if there is anything that we have missed out on, then it will be covered. So just make sure that you are there. Okay. Okay, Palak. Okay. Fantastic. So that is there. And the last is early termination of lease before a certain period. So understand that I have given, Palak, I have given you a premises on lease. I have given it on lease. Understand that, right? Now that I've given it to you on lease for 12 months, understand there was someone who was inquiring for the same premises on the 10th month. But I said no to because you were there on the lease for the next 2 months. So I said no. Now, what happens is that as so understand Sunday that person had come to inquire, and now Monday you are saying that sorry, I have to leave early, and I will not be using your premises for the next 2 months. So please let me go. And I'll say I'll let you go, but after payment of that 2 months rent, because understand I've sacrificed a customer because of you. And I had thought in my mind that I have sold the inventory for next 12 months. So I have given that premises on rent, sold as in given that premises on rent for the next 12 months. So I'm expecting a revenue from that because I consider that as a booked premises. Now, if you say that no, 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 sorry, I cannot. No, boss. You have made a contract of 12 months, you have to adhere to that. Now, if you want to occupy the premises, well, I'm happy to serve. But if not, then you will have to pay for the 2 months. Very similar to what happens in the airline industry. Very similar to what happens in the loan industry. Got it? Yes. Okay, these are all acts where you are tolerating an act of someone and giving consideration in return. Is that very clear, my dear friends? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, correct. Next is consideration must flow in return for contract. Okay, cases where it is not a supply. Cases where it is not a supply. So in this case, understand the supplier will never look forward to understand in all these. This is whatever cases are happening here. Understand, there is a certain damage that has happened. There is a certain loss that has happened. And for that loss, a compensation is paid. Do you get it? Do you get it? There is a loss that has happened. Okay. That's how it is. Okay. तो कुछ बिगड़ा है यहाँ पे. There are few damages that has happened. And for that, a compensation has happened. Right? Be it liquidated damages for breach of contract, be it damages to the property. So understand, I am the landlord, you are the tenant, and I have damaged that property. Sorry, you have damaged that property, and I am forfeiting the deposit that you've given. Now understand that that cannot be a consideration, right? Because there is a damage. Got it? Now, obviously, if you have done the damage, you have to pay for it. Now, I'm not giving you any service in regards to that. Something that belonged to me, you have damaged that. Now you have to repair that. If you can't repair it, pay me the amount. I will get it repaired. So you are actually compensating me for the loss that you have incurred. So there is no service at my end that I'm giving to you. Okay. Third, compensation for piracy. Understand that I'm a filmmaker, I'm a producer of Urta Punjab, the movie of Shahid Kapoor and Alia Bhatt on that Punjab drugs scene. फ्राइडे को मूवी रिलीज हो रहा है द मूवी इज गेटिंग रिलीज्ड ऑन फ्राइडे एंड ब्लडी I am able to see that movie on YouTube on Thursday. Thursday the movie has got released on YouTube. What the hell? Now understand that will fairly damage the business of that producer. He has got 1000 screens across India and here it is available on YouTube. You think Indians will go? You think Indians will go? No. Because Indians believe in saving money. Yes. And clearly you can see that why Chandrayaan was being operated less than the budget of like Adipurush. He have sent actually something on the moon. लो कर लो बात. ठीक है ये. अच्छा, check dishonor penalty. Now understand in this case, either firstly the bank is charging some penalty to the recipient and I will also charge penalty to the recipient because understand my bank will charge me and I would want to collect that from the recipient. Why will I bear that burden? Why will I bear that burden? Have I done that mistake? No, you have done that mistake. Because if you have to pay penalty to my bank. Because my bank is telling me you are bloody presenting a check which is dishonored. From whom have you actually taken this check? So my bank is bloody reprimanding me and penalizing me. I will collect that money from the recipient. That is a damage that you have caused. I'm not looking forward to get that money. Penalty imposed for violation of law. You have crossed the signal. Let's say, for example, or for that matter, you have filed your return late. So the late fee that is charged to you, the penalty that is charged to you, all these are violation of laws. Has the government given you service and you have given some consideration? No, it's a violation. Right? Forfeiture of salary, event of employee not serving notice period. Understand, yeah, notice period has to be served by an employee. Yeah? If you are not serving, you pay for that money. Where will I all of a sudden overnight arrange for an employee who is supposed to do your job just because you don't feel like coming to the office? No, it does not happen that way. You have to serve the notice period of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on the organization. And if they find it early, generally they will ask you to leave because they don't want you to be there. Got it? And if you don't want to serve it, fair enough. You are causing a damage to the organization by leaving because now who will do your work? And if your work is not done, I will not be able to serve as an organization. I will not be able to serve that client. So there will be a loss. That client can get, can get just say that I'm leaving you as an organization because your employees left me. So that's how it is. Same happens with forfeiture of earnest money by selling in case of breach of an agreement to sell an immoral property. Forfeitures are of earnest money by selling in case of breach of an agreement to sell an immoral property. Now understand, in this case you have given me token money. You have given me a token money and you have booked the flat. Now all of a sudden, after giving token money, you are saying that you don't want the flat. So I will forfeit that money, because there were a lot of buyers who said that we are interested, and I let them go off. And understand that this money I'm forfeiting, I am not frankly very happy about it, because it's the property was of 5 crores and the only amount that you've paid is me 5 lakhs. What the hell? It is not going to help me in any way. I would actually want you to buy that property and finish this topic, the transaction. So there is no specific agreement that I would like to, be in, where I will tell you that, okay, recipient, listen, let's do an agreement that tomorrow you will default and I will forfeit this money. So no one enters into an agreement like that, express agreement like that, right? And same happens with compensation given to previous allottees of coal blocks for cancellation of their license pursuant to SC, Supreme Court. So coal blocks license were given to me. Let's say I am, for example, Jindal Steel, right? It was given to me. Now all of a sudden Supreme Court has cancelled that allotment and compensation was given to me by the government. Now I'm not looking forward for that compensation, because understand, my entire business plan was about to get executed. I was about to make 1000 crores. Now I will not be happy in receiving like a compensation of like 50 100 crores just because there was an error at your end. Got it? I will not enter into an agreement with the government that, listen, tomorrow when you cancel my allotment, I want compensation. I want compensation. Do you expressly enter into an agreement like that? No. So these are the things, understand? Because you've already made my loss of 1000 crores. I've already set up factories for this, and now you are canceling my allotment. Nonsense. So that is all. Okay, so these are all the cases where it is not a supply. Understand? So whenever there is a positive agreement, right, this will apply. Okay, it's very important that the agreement should be a positive agreement. And whenever there is a negative agreement, then it is not a supply. Is that very clear, my dear friends? Correct. Okay, perfect. Next is, my dear friends, composition scheme, right? So in composition scheme, my dear friends, the concept is very, very, very simple. Okay. So initially there was this concept of 90% and all of that, but now it's all cool. Understand that now, if you are a manufacturer of any fly ash bricks, okay, fly ash aggregates, fly ash blocks, bricks of fossil meals, building bricks, earthen or roofing tiles, then definitely you are not eligible for composition scheme. The composition scheme will lapse if you start manufacturing these items. Right? And the same amendment is in the registration wala 40 lakhs wala limit, where if you are supplying these kind of goods, 40 lakhs is not applicable to you, either 20 lakhs or 10 lakhs is applicable. Nothing major. Even in reverse charge mechanism, frankly speaking, my dear friends, the GTA wala thing, you already know, okay, it's just the same that I've written here. The only thing that changes is this wala part, where initially what happened is that GTA actually had the room, okay, had the room of frankly taking up anything anytime. So let's say tomorrow is, for example, 24th of August, and let's say Shravantika is my client. I say her 5% RCA. Then Gargi comes, okay, and wants to avail my service. Then I say 12% FCA. So this way I will quote anything to anyone, anytime, any rate. Sometimes I will say RCM, sometimes I will say FCM, but this time no. The amendment is finally arrived, and now in case of GT, I understand one thing. If you really want to opt for 12%, you will have to get yourself firstly registered under CGST Act and exercise this option. And it is implied that this option will be exercised. Once exercised, will be valid for next 1 year. And very simple. The supplier has issued a tax invoice to the recipient charging CGST at applicable rates and has made a prescribed declaration on invoice issued by him. Is that very clear? Correct. Okay. Correct. There is a declaration that he has to make, and very important that he has to specifically write in the invoice that the tax will be payable as per FCA. Right. That's it. Nothing great as such. Acha. In this case, my dear friends, 9 subsection 5, understand that initially what happened was, okay, specifically in respect of rickshaws and meter taxis. Meter taxis is Kali Pili taxis that you can see in Mumbai, right? Specifically in that, and in case of buses, sorry, yeah, in case of buses also. Okay, so initially the concept was very simple that if you travel through them, they were exempted, right? Especially when I talk about a bus, where it's basically a non-AC bus, not meant for the purpose of higher charter tourism when it comes to contract carriage and stage carriage. तो non AC आपको पता ही है कि exempt ही होता है. It's always exempt, right? Now understand, my dear friends, that in case they are all now booked via EC, that is via Rapid or via Red Bus, then government has said that it is taxable, and in that case, it's the ECO who will pay tax as per 9 subsection 5. So that's the only amendment that has happened here. Okay, perfect, है? Perfect. Okay, perfect. Nikita, you're talking about what? Which case? Okay. Exemptions from GST. Okay. Now understand exemptions from GST. What will happen in this case, my dear friends? Very simple. Okay. Firstly, there is an issue with respect to pure services. So 3 and 3, 3 and 3. In this case, understand if you are giving, so in this case, understand supplier is supplying service to CG, SG, UT, LA. So initially, government authority and government entity, these were also included in the recipient's end, where the exemption was applied, right? So government authority and government entity both were covered. Now they are outside the exemption, and the exemption now is valid only when the recipient is CG, SG, UT, LA. So you have lesser things to remember. Okay. So in 3 also it has been removed, striked off, and in 3 also it has been striked off. That 25% wala exemption. Okay. Acha, sixth wala part, my dear friends, let me tell you all, right? That in this case, my dear friends, understand one thing. Services by CG, SG, UT or LA excluding the following services. Now understand one thing, okay? There was a lot of confusion with respect to services provided by Department of Post, right? But now it is very clear, my dear friends, that when we talk about services with respect to Department of Post, right? We are very clear that I'll just show you. There you go, right? So this is the amount of clarity we have reached, that when it comes to Department of Post Service, right? Initially, there were 4 services listed: Speed Post, Life Insurance Agency Service, right? Express Parcel Post. Only those services were taxable. But now they have said, listen, nothing doing any service provided by Department of Post to any recipient. So there were also certain recipients, right? Where they said that any person other than CGSGUT. But now doesn't matter. Even if the recipient is CGSGUT, doesn't matter. Recipient can be any person, and services can be any service. Okay, it is taxable, and who will pay the tax? Department of Post. So now better clarity, and there is hardly any confusion, right? And an ad hoc exemption is again introduced with respect to Department of Post, that if you are selling postcard, inland letter, book post, ordinary post, where the envelope is weighing less than 10 grams, it is exempt. So that is one exemption that they have come up with, right? So it talks about that only. So be it entry number 6, entry number 7, where again there was a mention of the same speed post wala exception. Entry number 8, again there was an exception with respect to Department of Post. Entry number 9, again the same exception was covered here, right? So all those entries had Department of Post as its exception. So there are three exceptions: Department of Post Service, aircraft and वो अपना क्या है vessel inside or outside the precincts, and third is transportation of passenger and goods. These three exceptions are always there in 6, 7, 8, 9. So they have just rectified the Department of Post wala case, that any services provided by Department of Post to any recipient now is okay outside the purview of all these entries, and which is why they have mentioned the same here. Okay, so it's the same amendment being taken place in all the entries. Simple. Okay, so nothing to worry. Next is 12. Okay, have we done 12? Yes. So understand, my dear friends, if the landlord is actually renting residential dwelling for residential use to a registered person, then it is taxable as per RCA. But if that registered person happens to be an individual, right, who is using it for personal purpose, then it is exempt. And if it is unregistered person, then definitely it is exempt. So that is the only thing covered here, right? Next is 15. In 15, understand my difference. They have spoken about now. Okay. Transportation of passenger service ka exemption, especially the exemption which is given in terms of air. So initially tour from Northeast India and Bagdogra was exempt, but now they've only exempted that part to the extent of economy class. To the extent of economy class. Is that very clear? Yes. Okay. And this one we've already covered, so don't worry. Right? Perfect. Okay. So, however, nothing covered in B and C shall apply to services if they are given through ECO. So that we just discussed. Right? The non-AC contract carriage other than tourism conducted to charter hire, and stage carriage other than AC. Okay, we just covered it recently. Okay. In 17th entry, my dear friends, again, they've specifically mentioned that when it comes to the part E, that is metered cabs or auto rickshaws, okay, when it comes to them, if they are booked through ECO, then it will be taxable, and ECO will only pay tax as per 9(5). Okay. Next, my dear friends. Okay, so this is what they are talking about. Next is 19A. 19A, my dear friends. So there was this exemption where transportation of goods by aircraft from custom station in India to a place outside India. So basically, while you are exporting through air, it was exempt, but now that exemption, which was applicable up to 30th 9 2022, is done away with, and now definitely, my dear friends, it is taxable. 19B again, but this was with respect to aircraft, and this is with respect to vessel, right? The same thing in India to a place outside India, that is basically exporting goods via aircraft or via vessel. That service only was exempt, which is now taxable. Okay. Acha. Entry number 20, my dear friends, very simple. Okay, services by the way of transportation of rail or vessel from one place in India to another place in the following goods. Now understand, my dear friends, in this case, okay, they have clearly struck this off. Okay, so I have not written it, but they have struck this out. So initially what happened is that in case of vessel or rail, right? If you were transporting goods like railway equipment or material, now that was exempt if that transportation is through vessel या rail. Okay, but now that has been striked off. I'm so sorry, वो नहीं कहा कि है strike, but that is striked off. And now, okay, understand it is taxable. ठीक है? Perfect. Next is 61A. Services by the way of granting national permit to a goods carriage to operate throughout India or contiguous states. तो ये मैंने दिखाया है. Okay, I've already showed this where a state government is basically giving national permit to a GTA, and GTA to acquire this permit is paying some filing fees, application fees, and that is exempt. Okay, that is one exemption that has recently got covered. Okay. So here is the chart where I have covered everything, right? This one, this part, correct? Next is, yeah, we've covered it here. Perfect. Right? It's just basically a diagrammatic representation of what we've discussed above. So that is just easier for you to handle things. Okay, and transportation of passenger maybe I have just given you the diagram that rickshaw and meter taxis, if you will see. Okay, so these are these pink dots that I have done. And finally, okay, I have written a note here that signifies what I'm trying to convey here, okay. And here also, only in case of economy class it is exempt, business class it's taxable. Okay, perfect. Okay, next is my difference 21. In case of entry number 21, understand there was this small exemption given with respect to GTA, that in case, for example, uh, on single consignee basis and single consignment basis, right? So basically, if I talk about consignment, there was an exemption of 1500, and there was consignee an individual limit of 750 wala exemption, which was there initially, but now it is completely withdrawn. There is absolutely no exemption with respect to that 1500 and 750 that now exists. Okay, correct. Next is, and the best part is, guys, whatever is not there now, okay, I have not even written it in the diagram, so that there is no confusion at your end. If it is not there, it does not exist. Why will I remember that? Why will I remember that? Right? Done. That's it. Next is my difference 24B. So services by the way of storage of warehousing of cereal, pulses, fruits, vegetables. Now there were other materials also here. Understand? Copra and indigo and sugar cane and whatnot, right? But now they've limited only to cereals, pulses, fruits, vegetables. उसमें भी I don't know why they have written fruits and vegetables, because they are any which ways agriculture produce. So they get covered under that entire exemption of loading, unloading, storage, packaging, warehousing, right? So they get covered here, but I don't know. They've specifically mentioned here for some reason, and I don't know why. But sometimes the duplication does happen, so don't worry. That's fine, right? That's it. Then yeah, 54. I've just written it for the sake of it, just to get a perspective, nothing else, right? And yeah, when it comes to 72, my dear friends, this is basically services in relation to government. Uh, I think we have missed out this service in government services. So when we basically check government services, my dear friends, this exemption is missed out. So I would just ask you all to do one thing. In government service, either up here in the margin or somewhere here, okay, wherever you find place, you can just write down this. I'm just showing a small diagram. Okay, I'm just showing a small diagram that will help you understand the perspective. So if you are a supplier and you are giving service to basically a training center run by CGSGUT, where more than where more than 75% of the expenditure is borne by them, right? 75% or more is borne by them. So government wants that this training center should be that kind of a training center where more and more expenditure is incurred by CGSDUT, right? So if they incur 100% expenditure, it's great. 80, 90, great. But minimum should be 75. So maximum private participation allowed is 25%, right? So question can easily come where they can ask that, okay, supplier is giving service to a training center where the expenditure borne by CGSD is 50%. Then it will be taxable. Why? Because the minimum expenditure should be how much? 75. That should be majority participation of CGSGUT only. And that majority is 75% and more. Is that very clear? Correct. अरे आरडब्ल्यू में रेंटिंग कहाँ से आया श्रवंती का? हाउ इज रेंटिंग एप्लीकेबल टू आरडब्ल्यू? आरडब्ल्यू में यू आर ओनर ऑफ द हाउस. Owner of the house only pays maintenance. It's completely different. Completely different. Like renting is different. Renting is different. Renting is a transaction between landlord and tenant. And that 7,500 wala discussion is between the owner of that flat and the building, the society. So people are only different. Okay. So here an example can come across. Okay, actually let me take you through actually. Just a second. Tell me in this case what will happen. This one, second case. Come on, guys. Shravantika, Sneha, Nikita, tell me what will happen in the second case. Yes, it is less than 75%. You have to determine it here. Got it? It is less than 75. ठीक है? So total expenditure incurred by The program was 90,000, and of which 63,000 was borne by state government. Only 63,000. That's 70% if I'm not wrong, right? Which is less than 75, and hence simple. Okay, the entire 5 lakh worth of rupees the service is provided to. Okay, the state government worth rupees 5 lakhs will be taxable. Perfect nahi hai, perfect Nikita. Okay, so something like this can be asked. ठीक है, तो ये ऐड कर देना बस, just add this. Okay, just add this in our statutory notes. Okay, just add this and make sure that 75% is highlighted. क्या बात है, nice, good, 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 good one Saket, good one. श्रवंती का तो एक और स्टेप आगे चली गई और उन्होंने तो पूरा बता ही दिया. Okay, nice, good one, good one, good one, nice. Okay, now coming back to the updates. Okay, so you are done with this exemption, you have understood what it is. Next is, my dear friends, health and clinical establishment. In this case, my dear friends, again, as you all know, this is the amendment that happened here. A clarification with respect to this was issued that ART and IVF, basically, where you are taking the entire reproduction process through a different human being, a different human being is involved, the normal meeting parents are not involved, and that process is exempt. Also, the fact that when it comes to preservation of stem cells, right, is taxable, and biomedical treatment operators, okay, they are also taxable. Is that very clear? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So initially they both were exempt, preservation of stem cells and biomedical treatment, waste treatment facility, but now both are taxable, 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 taxable. ठीक है. अच्छा, also the fact that renting of rooms. So initially this was entirely exempt, but now they have introduced a monetary limit. So up to 5,000 it is exempt. More than 5,000 it is taxable. अच्छा, इसको जरा highlight. It is taxable. It is taxable. Please make this correction. And it is exempt if it is a room which is called ICU, ICCU, CCU, NICU, right? Then it is exempt. ठीक है, critical इसमें कोई है, critical unit and all of these rooms are very, very, very. And this intensive care unit, intensive critical care unit, वो सब उसी का full form है. So if that room happens to be this, then it is exempt. Otherwise, it is taxable. ठीक है? Because that means that you are actually, if it's 5,000 per day, understand you are living in an expensive hospital. Got it? You are living in an expensive hospital. So I will charge you GST, because if you can bone 5,000, you can definitely bone 5-12% extra on that as GST. So you are a rich person. ठीक है? That's it. दूसरा ये सब तो this is the same only. I have just copy pasted it. Okay. Next is coaching in relation to recreation activity. So initially there was a lot of ambiguity in this case, frankly speaking, but now it's very clear that if you are someone who's teaching arts or culture, arts where there is music, there is dance, there is craft, there is painting, anything related to arts, that's music, there's poetry, anything, any form of art, there's comedy, right? Everything is art, and culture is something like teaching a language, or translating languages, or understanding, teaching the context of Mahabharata, Gita, Bible, anything like that. Okay, there are classes actually happening here, there are courses actually happening here related to this. If an individual does it, it is exempt. The reason is very simple, because understand, there are a lot of housewives, there are a lot of homemakers, there are a lot of these old age people, there are a lot of these women who actually impart the art, impart these cultural things and make money. So government did not want to impose any taxation liability on these people. And which is why government said it is exempt. Don't worry, it is exempt, because understand, the best part it is that here there hardly will be any inputs for them. They are teaching art, right? So there are hardly any inputs, though, so they will not even lose any ITC. Got it? And outward supply is exempt. So now they're completely outside GST because they are not even paying GST, they are not even receiving any money. There is no input tax, there is no output tax. So they're relieved. That GST is outside their mind. Now only thing they have to take care is with respect to income tax. So that was the objective, to encourage individuals to start teaching art and culture. Second is, if you are if you're a sports academy that is run by charitable trust, registered under 12AA, 12AB, exempt. Only a charitable trust. So if Sachin Tendulkar is running as a sole proprietor, as a company, as an HUF, as a partnership firm, no, 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 no. It will be only exempt if it is in the structure of charitable trust. Okay, that's it. Okay. New exemptions, my dear friends, as you all know, tour operator. If tour operator is in India, if the foreign tourist is out, okay, foreign, if the recipient is foreign tourist, if the tour happens outside India, it is exempt. If happens in India, it is definitely taxable. If it is partly in India, partly outside India, then in that case, consider the percentage of that tour that happens outside India. Okay, so focus on the percentage there, right? So number of days in foreign divided by total number of days, multiply by tour package, and compare it with 50% of the tour package. Okay, so maximum exemption here you will get is 50%, right? And the other 50% will be taxable. So even out of 10 nights, 7 nights are spent outside India. Okay, and the package is worth rupees 1 lakh. Understand, 70,000 will not be exempt, 50,000 will be exempt. Because 70,000 or 50,000, whichever is lower, 50,000 will be exempt and another 50,000 will be taxable. A few examples are also given to help you understand better perspectives. Acha, withdrawal of exemptions. So initially there were exemptions with respect to hotel and guest house, where if the tariff is up to 1,000 rupees, it was exempt. Now, if it is less than 1,000, 1,000, more than 1,000, everything is taxable. Everything is taxable. This exemption is only bloody withdrawn. Such a service provided by RBI was exempt initially, now it is taxable. So service provided by RBI or to RBI, by RBI or to RBI, both are taxable. Understand that. Okay. 32 wala is services provided by IRDA to insurance under IRDA Act. It is taxable now. Now understand that I have not mentioned 32 in our notes, right? Because it is taxable. So why will I mention it anyway? I will mention those things which are exempt, right? So if you have not read it, that is understood that it is taxable. If you have not read it, that means it's understood that it is taxable. Services provided by SEBI by the way of protecting the interest of investors. Initially, it used to be exempt. Now it is taxable. Services of leasing assets by Indian Railway Finance Corporation to Indian Railways, exempt tha, taxable. Services by the way of licensing, registration, analyzing or testing of food samples by Food Safety and Standards Authority to food business operators. Initially it was exempt, now it's taxable. Services provided by GSTN, taxable. Service provided by fumigation in the warehouse of agriculture produce. Now understand. Here I would just like you to do one correction, or I don't know, one addition in the entire. कहाँ गया वो एग्रीकल्चर वाला? अच्छा, do one thing. Go to your chart. Go to your summary chart. Go to agriculture service. I have told you. I have categorically told that fumigation service in agriculture farm is exempt, but in warehouse it was initially exempt, but now it's taxable. We have covered this. We have definitely covered this. Okay. Tell me yes or no. Tell me yes or no, guys. Tell me yes or no. And in case you all have not covered, you all can just write it down. Okay. Yes. Just write it down. Okay. That's it. Acha. Services by the way of slaughtering of animals. Now it is taxable. So any which ways it's a heinous act, right? Especially I will say it because I come from the place of being a Jain. So we to don't even eat these potato kanda, lasan, that is garlic. So killing animals is like outside our domain. We would like rather like I would rather get killed myself than see an animal getting killed. Right? That's how we are wired. So any which ways it's a heinous act, and keeping in mind that government has also just understand that it's a heinous act, government has made it taxable. Okay. And 73, 75 we've already covered, guys, while we were doing healthcare service. Okay. Fantastic. Acha, next is, my dear friends, clarification regarding applicability of GST on supply of food in Anganwadi and in schools. In Anganwadi and in schools. Okay. Now understand, my dear friends. Okay, understand, my dear friends, that Anganwadi is also a preschool, but a preschool in rural area. So if I'm not wrong, my dear friends, when we were doing education service, right? When we were doing education service, I've specifically made you write. Yeah, yeah, it's written. You've written here. Preschool including Anganwadis. So these Anganwadis are nothing but preschools, and if they are providing service, it is exempt, right? And if let's say any catering services provided to them is also exempt, because any transportation of student, faculty, staff, security, catering, cleaning, housekeeping service given to preschool, okay, preschool से लेके high school, it is exempt. And since Anganwadi is also preschool, in that case also it will be exempt. Okay, fantastic, friends. So that is one thing that okay is covered here. Next is clarification regarding applicability of GST on miling of wheat into flour or paddy into rice. Okay, understand, miling of wheat into flour or paddy into rice, it will always be taxable, because you are actually changing the primary characteristics of the agriculture produce. Are you getting it? Yes. Okay. Now, here something else has been spoken about. Just focus. The issue which arose for consideration was okay as to whether the composite supply of service by miling of wheat into wheat flour, along with fortification by any person to a state government for distribution of wheat flour under PDS system, is eligible for exemption under entry number 3 or not. So if you remember, entry number 3 was basically okay giving composite supply, okay, to CGSG and that composite supply is basically a supply which is given to the recipient, okay, where the functions are covered under 243G and 243W of Constitution of India with respect to panchayat and municipality, right? Correct. So hence entry 3 would apply to composite supply of miling of wheat and fortification. Why? Because such case is covered under this entry. So if you will read carefully, okay, it specifically says that PDS specifically figures at entry 28 of 11 schedule of constitution, which lists the activities that may be entrusted to a panchayat under 243G. So basically this activity is covered under 243G, right? And in this case, understand, if the goods component is up to 25%, then definitely the exemption will extend to okay wheat into wheat flour for PDS system. Okay, that's it. So that's the only thing that they have spoken. We have covered this. If you will see it carefully, you will understand what I mean, right? Acha. This also, guys, if I'm not wrong, I've specifically asked you to mark and write this. So clarification regarding GST on overloading charges at toll plaza. So it actually taken to you all, okay, in the miscellaneous exemption wala thing, right? And in the miscellaneous exemption wala thing, my dear friends, कहाँ था? हाँ, यहाँ पे yes, yes, yes. So I had basically told you all that if you are over speeding or if there is non-functional FASTag, you will be charged an additional amount, and that additional amount is as good as toll charges. And since toll charges is exempt, additional amount will also be exempt. So non-functional hashtag and और एक लिख दो यहाँ पे, okay, as they have specifically mentioned, over speeding and overloaded, sorry, overloaded, okay, permitted to overloaded vehicles. So vehicles are supposed to carry only a certain weight. So if you are overloaded, especially on the national highways, then payment of higher toll charges बनता है. Okay, there is supposed to be paying of higher toll charges, and if you end up paying that, definitely that is nothing but toll charges that tantamounts to the toll charges amount only, and hence it will be exempt. Okay. Next is clarification regarding renting of vehicles to state and local authorities. Okay. Okay. So entry 22 exempt services by the way of giving on hire. So basically understand giving on hire includes renting. So hire and renting can be used interchangeably. That's what they've said. Frankly speaking, nothing much to think about it. Does not change the spirit of the exemption given. Okay, with respect to vehicles given on hire, where the seating capacity is more than 12 passengers. If you remember, one is to state transport unit, one is to local authority. Local authority may it is EV, and normal vehicle is with respect to state transport unit. Right? Are you able to remember this? Shravantika, Sneha, Nikita, Kesarla. Do you all remember this? Yes, sir. Okay. Next is, my dear friends, the sixth point, which talks about, okay, admission or for issuance of migration certificate by educational institutions. So we concluded, guys, that whenever education institution is giving service to whom? Its current student, faculty, staff, its prospective students, or its ex-students. So here, right now, they are talking about ex-students. This is the exemption they are targeting at, right? So even if they are charging some amount for this from their ex-student, very, very, very simple, my dear friends, it will be exempt, exempt, and exempt. Okay, perfect. Next is seventh. Now this is something that you can add to your exemption list. So basically understand the thing is that the issue which arose for consideration was regarding applicability of GST on transportation of empty containers returning from Nepal and Bhutan to India after delivery of transit cargo. Okay. Entry 9B exempts GST on supply of services associated with transit cargo to Nepal and Bhutan. In this regard, it is clarified that the exemption under entry 9B covers services, okay, with transit cargo both to and from Nepal and Bhutan. So it was only covered to Bhutan, but now it is said to or from Bhutan. If there is any transit cargo, okay, then definitely okay, exemption will attract to both of them. So it is clarified that the movement of empty containers from Nepal and Bhutan after delivery of goods is a service associated with transit cargo to Nepal and Bhutan, and henceforth the exemption also goes to them. Okay, correct. Next is, okay, if you remember yesterday only we did this in RTP, where basically the guest anchor. So if you remember, there are a lot of these debates that happen on Republic TV and a lot of TVs, they will call some self-proclaimed godman and some astrologer and some influencer and some TV actor, and there is this hot debate going on. and that's how they will basically bring all the TRPs. Now the thing is, my dear friends, that guest anchors get paid and gets paid by the TV channels, by the radio channels. So that honorarium charge that they are getting from the TV channels, it is definitely subject to GST. Okay, just make sure that you focus on the guest anchor, whether he has exceeded the 20 lakhs ka limit, 10 lakhs ka limit. If yes, then it is taxable. If not, then it is exempt because he will get exemption. But which exemption? Personal exemption. Understand that the service is taxable, but it will be exempt obviously if he has not exceeded 20 lakhs. That now goes without saying. I hope that is nothing that I have to keep telling you every time. It goes without saying. Next is clarification regarding applicability of ART and IVF. So ART is assisted reproductive technology, okay, and IVF is in vitro fertilization. Right? We've already done this. It is exempt. It is exempt. It is exempt. Okay. Acha, 13th wala is interesting. We have covered this, but I'll just cover it again. Yeah. So what happens is that if, for example, understand I am the land owner and I have sold land and building, will that amount to supply? No, it's an immovable property. It is covered under 7.2. It is not a supply. Correct? Yes, it is not a supply. Now understand one thing, my dear friends, that if this landowner does some expenses, some expenditure on this land, he levels the land, he does leveling work, he he does drainage work, right? All sorts of services he is taking so that the land is now in a position that it can be sold, right? So there are different activities if you will see, like leveling, laying down of drainage lines, etc., etc., etc. So he takes these kind of services, which are basically input services, on which GST will be charged to him, obviously, right? Because the supplier is actually giving supply of service to landlord, right? Now understand ITC on the same will not be available because the leveled land that he is getting sold, that he is selling, or the land with drainage systems that he is selling is not a supply. Got it? So I don't mind even if this person is selling land and building which is leveled or has drainage system. I don't mind. It will remain to be not a supply. It will remain to be not a supply. How does it matter? Because understand you're still selling an immovable property, right? How does it matter if it is leveled or not leveled? Are there drainage systems or not there? It's just a superficial activity that is done so that it, okay, is in a position where I can sell it off. Correct? Simple. And yeah, if let's say I take services from someone to level the land, to lay on these drainage systems, then obviously that person will levy GST to me, for which I will not get the ITC, because understand I am not able to charge output tax. There is no output GST. Got it? So you can draw this diagram. Okay, and this is basically covered under 7 subsection 2. I've specifically made a point writing this. Just check 7 subsection. Got it? Land and building can be sold with or without development, like leveling. It still remains not a supply. Okay, perfect. I'll just read it through. Sale of land is neither supply of goods nor services. Therefore, the sale of land does not attract GST. Land may be sold either as it is or after some development such as leveling, laying down of drainage system, water lines, electricity lines. This clarified that the sale of such a developed, land is still covered by para 5 of schedule 3 and accordingly does not attract GST. However, it may be noted that any services provided for development of land like leveling, drainage, will attract GST. Okay, and I went ahead an extra point saying that he will not get the ITC because obviously he cannot generate output tax. Is this very covered? Is this very clear, guys? Are you all clear on this? Yes, sir. 50. Clarification regarding applicability of GST on tickets of private ferry used for passenger transport. So basically here, if you check this entire thing, they are focusing on helping you understand what does public transport mean. Okay, so they have actually defined it very beautifully. It says that public transport is basically any transport that is open to public, right? So rickshaw is a public transport, taxi is a public transport, railways are public transport. Acha, tell me. For example, I have purchased a car. I have purchased a Mercedes, right? Is Mercedes a public transport? Tell me, Sneha, Shravantika, Kesarla, Nikita. Tell me, Palak. Tell me, Gargi. Tell me, Shreya. Is my Mercedes a public transport? No, because it is not open to public. Okay. So if I'm driving my Mercedes from my home to office, someone cannot just say, okay, ruko jara bhaiya, are bhaiya jara, can you please take me to station? What bhai? You pay bloody 1 lakh rupees for that. Nonsense. Obviously, it is not open for public transport. Are you getting it? It is my car. It is a private property, but it is not open for public transport. Right? But tomorrow, let's say if I think of changing my profession and, for some time I want to drive car and I want to earn money like that. I want to live the life of a taxi driver. And I take my Mercedes out and I give people lifts from one place to another. I'm giving transportation of passenger service. Then that becomes a public transport because now it's open for all. Right? So I take the taxi number and taxi in Mercedes, people would love to do that, right? Let's do it. So they have clearly clarified that, right? Because understand when we do waterways, right? There is this exemption which says that if you are using a public transport, right, which is not predominantly meant for the purpose of tourism, then it is exempt. So something like a cruise, something like a shikara, which you can see in Jammu Kashmir, that is taxable because it is predominantly meant for the purpose of tourism. Right? Correct. Right? But I'll tell you something like going from Port Blair to Chennai, right? In a vessel, right? In a ship, in a normal ship, in not a cruise, in a ship. No, that is not meant for the purpose of tourism. That's the only way I can commute if I want to go from one part of India to another part of India via waterways. That's it. तो यहाँ पे they have just explained public transport क्या होता है. That's it. Not a big deal. Okay. Perfect. Next, my dear friends, ITC. ITC, my dear friends. Okay. So when we take care about 16 subsection 2, there are two amendments. One is three amendments actually. One is 16 to AA. 16 to AA, as you all know, specifically states that if supplier, okay, supplies outward supply, okay, and records it in GSTR1, and recipient gets the same information and it's reflected in its 2B. So if it's reflected in its 2B, recipient can take ITC. Second, we focus on 16.2 bar. So what does 16.2 bar say? That understand that the details of ITC in respect of said supply communicated to a registered person has not been restricted under section 38. under section 38. So this is section 38. These are the restrictions. But as I told you, there's nothing to remember in this because everything here is prescribed. Prescribe, 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 and nothing is prescribed. So what will they ask? Nothing. So don't worry. Okay. Next is they have specifically commented something regarding to Rule 37A. Rule 37A specifically states that listen, if supplier does not furnish 3B for which he has already furnished 1. So if I have shown 10 lakhs worth of supplies in GST are 1, why would have I shown that? So that recipient can get ITC in 2B. So that recipient does not go behind me or in the market saying that this person is not paying GST. Because if I reflect it in 1, it will come into recipient's 3B. 2B. Now recipient will never get to know whether I have paid tax of the outward supply that I have shown in 1. Have I shown it in 3B and paid tax for the same or not? That recipient will never get to know. The only way recipient gets to know is whether when he checks his 2B. So if he has paid input tax of input supplies and it is not seen in 2B, he will realize that supplier has not filed 1. So what supplier did is supplier kept on filing GST 1 so that recipient ka 2B is always there. So recipient does not go out in the market and say that look at this supplier, look at this supplier, he's such a defaulting supplier. Forget about consideration, he bloody does not even pay tax to government, which has gone from my pocket. So supplier will never make the mistake of not filing 1. He will file 1, but he will not show the same outward supply in 3B and thereby not pay tax, which the recipient will never get to, right? But if you do that, if you don't furnish 3B of the outward supply, which you have shown in 1 up to 30th September of the next financial year, then recipient, understand, recipient must have taken ITC because this guy has shown us supplying 1. So obviously this why it will be reflected in S2B, correct? Now what government is trying to say that listen boss, if you would have already taken ITC back then, and if this guy has not rectified the mistake of paying tax of the supplies that he has shown in 1, he has not paid the tax in 3B up till 30th September of the next financial year. Jiska, you must have taken ITC there and there itself and do one thing, reverse the ITC before 30th November. Because understand, supplier has not paid tax. You cannot take ITC of the tax that supplier has not paid for. So if you have taken ITC by mistake, it's not your mistake at all. Reverse it. Reverse it before 30th November. Okay. Okay. Perfect. That's it. Right. So that is one thing that needs to be taken care of. Obviously, there is an amendment in 16.4 which specifically says that initially this date was okay. Due date of the month following the due date of the September month following the next financial year. So we basically this date was 20th October, but now that has got shifted to 30th November, right? Or actual date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. Okay. Beta Kesarla, now that does not exist. Don't worry. That does not exist anymore. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is something important, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So, and this I have not spoken while we were doing this, but I'll tell you why I have not spoken also. There is a reason for that. Listen now. Okay. Listen very clearly. So, what happened is that, for example, if I have issued invoice on, let's say there is a supplier, he is supplied goods, and also issued tax invoice. Correct? He supplied goods and also issued tax invoice when on 1/4 itself. Right? Correct? Now understand. Right? On 1/4, let's say on 1/3, okay, 1/3/2023. Now understand that the supplier then realized that, yeah, the invoice should have been issued for 10 lakhs, but it's not issued for 10 lakhs, it's issued for 8 lakhs. So now he will issue a debit note for 2 lakhs. Right? Okay, he will issue a debit note for 2 lakhs. And when is he issuing that? On, let's say, 1/4/23. Now, initially, what used to happen was, understand, this happens to be in the financial year 22-23, and this happens to be in the financial year 23-24. Now, understand the time limit, the maximum time limit of this tax invoice where you can avail ITC will be 30th November 2023, or annual return, whichever is earlier. Correct? 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 Correct. But understand that in debit note also I charge GST to the recipient. Correct? I charge GST to the recipient. Now understand that, okay, the invoice, and I'm talking, and everything here is from the perspective of recipient. If you have gauged it incorrectly, you're talking it from the perspective of recipient. So supplier has issued invoice and then supplier has issued debit note. But you are talking from the recipient's end because recipient has to take ITC, understand? Okay. So you can, so the invoice that is raised on 1/3, you can take ITC of the same latest next year, 30th November. Simple, correct? Now, with respect to debit note, which is issued in the next financial year, the due date was still the same. The due date was still the same. Now, understand that was very incorrect because tomorrow, what if I raise the debit note on 30th December 2023? If I still share the same time limit of that of this invoice, if I still share the same time limit, understand, then supplier is issued debit note and I will not even get the opportunity to avail ITC because the time limit is already passed. Because the time limit of debit note was not an individual time limit of its own. It was taken from the time limit of the tax invoice. So whatever is the tax invoice ka time limit used to be the time limit of debit note, right? And this was a problem that was happening. Government said nothing doing. Okay. Now invoice will have its individual time limit and debit note will also have its individual time limit. So in case of debit note, let's say, for example, if taking the original example, debit note was issued on 1/4/23, okay, the time limit of availing ITC will be 30th November 2024. It will be next financial year. Next financial. Okay. Yes, 24-25 wala financial year, right? And not 30th November 2023. Did you get it? So tax invoice will have its own time limit. Debit note will have its own time limit. Okay. So you focus on the date. Take the next year, 30th November. That is the time limit. Did you all get this, guys? Kashyap, did you all get it? Sneha, Nikita, Shravantika, Megha, Nisha, did you get it? Okay, so I've also given an example for the same. A debit note issued on 7/7 is issued in respect of original invoice on 16/3, right? As invoice pertains 2021, the relevant financial year for ITC in respect of the invoice shall be financial year 2021. Okay. The relevant financial year for availment of ITC in respect of the said invoice in terms of section 16 shall be, इसको काटो और यहाँ पे लिखो shall be 30th November 2021 or actual date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. However, as the debit note has been issued in FY 21-22, the relevant financial year for ITC in respect of the debit note shall be, okay, shall be, यहाँ पे लिख दो 30th November 2000, कभी रेज हुआ डेबिट नोट, ठीक है, दैट्स इट. ओके. हाँ, अरे 30th नवंबर ही होगा, बट जस्ट फोकस ऑन द फाइनेंशियल ईयर. टेक द नेक्स्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर, दैट्स इट. In both the cases, it is 30th November only, beta. Don't worry. Okay, correct. Okay, फटाफट से आ जा. Next is, my dear friends, registration. Registration, understand with respect to Aadhaar authentication. Okay, all you need to understand is that if the applicant is individual, then it will be his own Aadhaar. But if it is others, like let's say for example a proprietorship firm, the proprietor, partnership firm, partner, HUF karta, company, MDWTD, AOP, BOI, society, members of managing committee, trust in board of trustees, right? In this case, understand how will you apply for Aadhaar authentication. Okay, in that case, Aadhaar, if Aadhaar is not assigned altogether and still you want to go for Aadhaar authentication, then you can give in the Aadhaar enrollment ID slip and either of these valid documents like passport, passbook, voter ID, or driving license. Correct? You give either of them, and once Aadhaar is received, he shall have to undergo Aadhaar authentication within 30 days. So as soon as Aadhaar okay number is received, do Aadhaar authentication again within 30 days. Okay? Who all are exempted? Okay, obviously in this case, my dear friends, a person who is not a citizen of India, Department of CGST, UTLE, local authority, statutory body, PSU, and a person applying for UIN. Okay, and registered person shall undergo Aadhaar authentication only and only to become eligible for filing what? So he can revoke the cancellation order only if has Aadhaar authentication. Filing of refund application can also be done only when he has correct gone through Aadhaar authentication. Next is something that we've already discussed with respect to fly ash bricks, right? And the last is, my dear friends, okay, extension of time limit for filing application. Okay, clearly understand that initially revocation application, there was no extension. If you miss out the 30-day deadline, you cannot apply for revocation. But now there is a slight change. Okay, you can clearly do that. You can clearly do that, guys. Okay, and there is an extension given by assistant commissioner, joint commissioner with 30 days, and then again there is commissioner which will give you extension of another 30 days. Okay, further, when the registration has been suspended, okay, so here do one thing. Okay, यहाँ पे ना आप एक काम कर दो, don't worry, in section 30 we've already covered this. ठीक है, Further, the registration has been suspended under Rule 21A 2A for contravention of provisions contained in B or Clause C of 29(2), and the registration has not already been cancelled by the proper officer, the suspension of registration shall be deemed to be revoked upon furnishing of all pending returns. So understand that when you have not filed pending returns for 6 months, or for that matter, 2 quarters, and in case of compo taxpayer, it is 3 months from the due date. So if you have not filed it, and which is why you are given a notice, and from the date of notice your RC is suspended. Now before the cancellation order is passed, right, understand, you have got the notice of suspension, but before the order of cancellation is passed, if you file that before the order of cancellation has been issued, your suspension will be revoked and your cancellation proceedings will be dropped. So that what they're trying to say is that after you receive the suspension notice, right, and because only after suspension can your order be cancelled, right? So after the suspension notice is given, if you are proactive and you file the returns and you obviously write to the proper officer stating that you filed it, he will revoke your suspension and drop the cancellation proceedings, because the very reason why he was going to cancel your RC, you have made good to that bad. You have made good to that bad. Okay? Done. Okay. Okay. It's just 4 or 5 pages. Done. Just half an hour more, Nikita. Done. We are done. Okay. Section 29, my dear friends, you all already know. Okay. This is something not applicable to you, so take it off. Okay. So the major amendment is here and here. In compo taxpayer, please understand, uh, initially it was something else, and now it is very simple that your RC will be cancelled 3 months from the due date of furnishing a return. So 30th September is the date when you file return as a compo taxpayer, right? So by 30th of July, if you have not filed returns, your RC will be cancelled. In a normal taxpayer, depends whether you are into QRMP scheme or whether you are into MRMP scheme. Okay. In that case, please understand, my dear friends, if you are under MRMP scheme, continuous 6 months, your continuous tax periods. If you don't file, your RC can be cancelled. Right? Correct. And yeah, that's it. That's it. And finally, when it comes to, my dear friends, now we are left with what? Tax invoice, accounts, and yeah. Okay, done. ठीक है? Yeah. So when it comes to tax invoice, credit note and debit note, yeah, कर दूंगा. Don't worry. You can leave, Nikita. Please go ahead and give your audit exam. Yeah, please do that. Right. Acha, when it comes to tax invoice, credit note, and debit note, my dear friends, we are focusing on e-invoicing amendment. With respect to e-invoicing, understand initially this limit was 20 crores. It has brought down to 10 crores. Okay. Yes. Okay. So 10 crores is the limit that you need to remember. Okay. Next is, my dear friends, who are exempted from e-invoice. Again, there are two people, who are specifically mentioned. So these are definitely the people who are mentioned in the exemption list. But there are two more added. One is obviously government departments, and the other is local authority. Okay? Perfect. Acha, also the fact that here you just have to declare. Okay, so every time these exempted people issue an invoice, they have to declare that even though their aggregate turnover in preceding financial year was more than the aggregate turnover notified, they are not required to prepare invoice in the terms of provision of the said sub rule, right? So every time they issue an invoice, they have to make sure that they write this, right? Perfect. Acha. In this case, my difference clarification in respect of applicability of QR code. Obviously, 500 crores is the limit. And here there is something needs to be understood. Understand that when a supplier is basically supplying goods or service to a UIN holder, so someone like a foreign embassy, UNO, multilateral financial institution, in that case, my dear friends, understand that this will be considered as B2C supply only, because a person holding UIN is not a registered person. And hence, in this case, there will be compliance of dynamic QR code that needs to be taken into consideration. Okay, next is accounts and records E-WAYBILL. In this case, my dear friends, there is a small amendment which says that listen, boss, okay, if you are Mr. X and if you have defaulted in, let's say, filing returns, right? You, so initially, what used to happen is that neither inward nor outward, he cannot either purchase, he cannot supply, he cannot do anything, right? So, so understand, my dear friends, okay, understand, my dear friends, in that case, he could not purchase, he could not sell. So government said that, yeah, arre, this is not correct. Especially when A said that, listen, when he has done the crime, why is my sale getting stopped? Why am I not able to generate part A? Just because my recipient is a defaulter. So which is why government finally came up with an amendment that, okay, that you will block generation of part A only when Mr. X sells. So only his outward supply will be blocked. Inward supply, the part A will not be blocked, right? So if he is purchasing, he can purchase goods. In that case, his supplier can generate E-WAYBILL, right? But when he is supplying goods ahead, he cannot generate E-WAYBILL. He cannot generate part A. Part A will be blocked. So the blockage is now only on the outward movement, not on the inward movement, right? Correct. I have also drawn a diagram here. Just check it, right? Also understand that the question which arose for consideration was whether carrying a physical copy of invoice is compulsory during the movement. Answer is yes, but not with respect to e-invoice. Okay. So if there is a case of e-invoice, then physical copy has to be done away with. But if it is not an e-invoice, then he has to carry both the e-way bill and the invoice, bill of supply or delivery channel. ठीक है? Also, it's extremely important that the e-invoice should have IRN number. Otherwise, that will not be an valid e-invoice. Just remember that. Okay. Next is, my dear friends, payment of tax. Okay. So now we are only left with what? Payment of tax and returns. Okay. And then we are done. We are done. 15-20 minutes more. Correct. Correct. Part A is blocked only in case of outward supply, Saket. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Okay. When it comes to payment of tax, my dear friends, we are talking about Rule 86A. In Rule 86A, government has specifically told that if it has reason to believe that the credit is availed by the registered person, okay, on invoices or debit note issued by supplier who is found to be non-existent. So the credit is availed. So recipient is availing ITC of a supplier who is non-existent, or the recipient himself is non-existent. Okay. So here, understand, I'm talking about the supplier. Okay. In this case, I'm talking actually about the recipient. In second case, I'm talking about the credit is availed by the registered person on invoices or debit note without actually receiving goods or service. So here what has happened is you've received the invoice without receiving goods or service. तो invoice आया है, goods और service नहीं आया है, right? And here goods and service आया है, sorry, invoice क्या है भूल गया मैं. One is when you get invoice but you do not get goods or service. One is you get goods or service but you do not get the invoice. So that part is this. So here there is invoice without actually goods or service, and in this without invoice you are taking the ITC. Okay. So here you have the invoice, here you do not have the invoice. And the last is this one part where, okay, the registered person has not paid tax to the government. Right? The recipient is taking ITC, okay, but the bad part is that the supplier from whom he is purchased these goods, that supplier has not paid tax to government. Right? In that case, my dear friends, government can disallow the debit amount. So you cannot debit your ITC, you cannot use your ITC, right, in these situations. Right? So this situation needs to be remembered. And also the fact that how much amount can be disallowed, right? So up to 1 crore, deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, 1 crore से ज़्यादा up to 5 crores, additional commissioner, joint commissioner, and more than 5 crores, it is principal commissioner and commissioner. Got it? Yes. Frankly speaking, 86A has lesser chances of coming in the paper because it was asked in their last exam. So you can avoid it if you want. Just go through it once, but it's not that very important according to me. Okay. Acha. Also the fact that understand there is a small amendment that what are the ways in which you can transfer money from your bank account to e-cash ledger. So there was this, there were these cases of debit card, credit card, net banking, right? Then there is internet banking, then there is NEFT, RTGS, and there are two modes now that have been added, UPI and IMPS. Okay? Perfect. Now comes, my dear friends, the most important part, and that is what. Correct. That is, my dear friends, with respect to, okay, interest on delayed payment of taxable value. Correct. Interest on delayed payment of taxable value. Are you getting it, my dear friends? Yes. Okay. Now understand, my dear friends. Okay. Good afternoon, Srirang Metkar. Good afternoon. Now understand firstly that to determine interest liability, you need three things: value, interest rate, and number of days. Right? So value can be determined in two ways. Okay. Net basis, gross basis. Net basis is output tax minus ITC. So for example, when does net basis get used? Very simple. So for example, I was supposed to file the return for the month of April, that is GST or 3B, on 20th May. But I have not filed it on 20th May. I filed it on 20th July. I filed it on 20th July. in this case, my dear friends, when I talk about 20th July, okay, understand, I have neither furnished outward supply ka data, I have neither furnished inward supply ka data. So now I will furnish everything together, bring the net payable, and also pay tax on it. And the tax will be paid on the net amount. Got it? So government is giving me opportunity that since I have not furnished the return only, government is saying, okay, file the return and pay tax on the net amount, take the benefit of ITC and then pay the tax amount. Right? And on that net tax amount, you pay the interest. Got it? Yes. So whenever there is delay in payment of tax, because delay in payment of whenever there is delay of payment of tax due to delay of filing it, net basis. Gross basis is basically amount that is unpaid. So for example, understand your January ka return you had to file on 20th February. You have filed it on 20th February and the amount paid is 10 lakhs. But later on, let's say the department or you yourself feel that no, actually this should have been 12 lakhs. So if you feel so, you pay suo motu, either you get that demand notice from the department, which is generally the case. You accept that, okay, you have missed these supplies and you will pay the amount that is given in the demand notice. And whatever amount is given in the demand notice, you will pay that amount, which is unpaid, right? Simple. So whatever amount is unpaid, you will pay that amount and you will pay interest on that amount. Very simple on that. Okay, correct. Now comes interest. Interest rate, my dear friends, initially was there were 2%, 18%, and 24%. Now it's only and only 18%. Standardized rate hoga. This is also an amendment. That there is a standard rate now. Only 18% applicable. Only 18% applicable. Right? But my dear friends, what about this aspect where ITC has been utilized and availed, okay, in a wrong manner. So where ITC has been wrongly availed and utilized. Okay, understand the interest rate will be 18% only, but it's important that how will it be calculated, right? So when understand, okay, the balance in e-credit ledger falls below ITC wrongly availed, extent of such ITC utilization shall be amount by which balance in e-credit ledger falls below the ITC wrongly availed. Now understand what is this exactly. So for example, in the month of April, my dear friends, okay, understand that the eligible ITC was 7 lakhs. Okay, I hope you all can see it, right? The eligible ITC was 7 lakhs. Okay, ITC wrongly availed was 50,000. Total ITC, which is why I took, was 7.5 lakhs. Output tax happened to be 7 lakhs, right? And which is why 7 lakhs is output tax, ITC is 7.5. So closing balance obviously hoga in e-credit ledger 50,000 because there is more ITC than output tax. Okay, amount on which interest is payable? Nothing. Why? Why? Because understand that what was your wrongly availed ITC? 50,000. Now it's very important that the balance in e-credit ledger should not fall below 15,000. It should not fall below 15,000, 50,000. Because when it falls below 50,000, it will be assumed that you have availed and utilized wrongly availed ITC. Up till now, understand, eligible ITC 7 lakh and you use 7 lakhs. 50,000 is still not used, which is exactly what the wrongly availed ITC was. So no interest, right? Because, okay, you have not utilized that ITC, right? Okay, now comes the May month. Okay, the opening balance in e-credit ledger was 50,000. Eligible ITC 5 lakh. Now total ITC 5.5. Corporate tax liability again 5 lakhs. Again there will be balance of 50,000. Again there will be no interest. Next, 50,000 opening balance. Eligible ITC 3 lakh. Total ITC 3.5. Acha, the corporate tax liability is 3.3. Now the balance in e-cash ledger will be, e-credit ledger will be 20,000. Now what was the balance? 50. From 50, we have gone to 20. From 50, we have gone to 20. From 50, we have gone to 20. So we have used 30,000, which is basically wrongly availed ITC. So on 30,000, interest will start getting levied. That's it. Yes. Okay. And now understand. You only have 20,000 as wrongly availed balance that is not utilized. So it's wrongly availed, but it is not utilized yet. And interest will start only when you utilize it. Okay. So now 20,000 is the opening balance. Eligible ITC is 6 lakhs. Total ITC is 6 lakh 20,000. Output tax liability is 6 lakh 20,000. So understand, whatever ITC you had, you will now wipe it off. You will even use that. So now, my dear friends, closing balance in e-credit ledger is 0. So you land up using even 20,000. And thereby, in that case, there is no balance. Got it? No balance. So you utilized even 20,000. So now, so initially 30,000 पे interest लग रहा था. Now 20,000 पे भी you will start charging interest, because that was initially only availed, not utilized. But now even now it is utilized. Even now it has got utilized, which was wrongly availed. See? So 30,000 का interest. So they've actually told कि यहाँ पे actually this will come from here. नीचे डाल दो यार. So okay. So June में ये कांड हुआ, right? So due date of filing return is 20th July. Actual date of filing return is 25th July. Then in that case, whichever is earlier. So from 20th July, I will start charging interest at the rate 18% per annum on 30,000. Till what date? Obviously till the date when I pay it back. Got it? Yes. Okay, so I hope I've made myself very clear. So when you've actually filed the return, when you've landed up filing the return, right, this will be the date of utilization, due date of filing return, or actual date, whichever is earlier, correct? But when it comes to others, that means when I have not filed the return, and I get the demand notice from the department, and then I land up paying tax, and then I land up paying the tax of the excess ITC that I have availed wrongly. Then in that case, it is very simple, date of debit in the e-credit ledger. So the date when you actually debited the e-credit ledger to the extent of 30,000 or 20,000, and department sends me a notice. I don't file a return. Department sends me a notice and then a demand order. And according to the demand order, I am paying it. So in that case, the date when I have, so understand, in that case, due date of filing return will never be available. Right? So in that case, date when I have debited the e-credit ledger, when the balance in e-credit ledger falls below the ITC wrongly available. So that day से क्या चालू कर दूंगा मैं interest का meter. Okay, that's it, my dear friends. I hope this is very good, and I hope this makes sense. Okay. Perfect. Next is, my dear friends, returns. In this case, the entire late fee chart is revamped, and I genuinely feel it will be asked in the exam. So it's very, very, very important. Please make sure that you remember this chart. 47.1 only talks about GSTR 1 and 3. So, my dear friends, in case of GSTR 1 and 3B, understand, if there is nil return, no tax liability, 10 rupees per day or 250. Whenever there is nil return, no tax liability, 10 rupees is constant or 250, whichever is lower, right? But when there is a tax liability, in that case, 25 rupees is common, right? Just understand how does this go. If it is up to 1.5 crores, 5 crores, more than 5 crores, right? So 0 to 1.5, 1.5 to 5, more than 5, 1000, 2500, 5000. Got it? Yes. So पहले multiply by 2.5 and then multiply by 5. ठीक है? In combo taxpayer, very simple. If it is nil, 10 rupees or 250. ऊपर भी same ही है. So here nothing to remember. Here, yes, instead of 250, it is 1000. Flat 1000. There are no turnovers to be checked here. And in NRTP, again, this will be the same. But here, or 5000 or 5000. Okay. So understand, this 10 and 25 will remain the same. What you are comparing it with keeps changing. So compomate is 1000, here it is 5000. Right? And in annual return, my dear friends, again, understand, if the aggregate turnover in preceding financial year, it starts with 5 crores, then 20, and then more than 20. Right? So 0.022%, 0.02%, and 0.25%. Right? And here 25, 50, 100. Got it? So keep this thing in your mind. Okay. You'll have to remember this. And I will just invite someone, that if someone can find some correlation with respect to that, I'm trying to find some correlation which can make it easier for other people also to understand, then please share it on our Telegram channel. I will be more than happy to share that trick on how you are remembering it. Okay. Because here, understand, 5 crores, 20 crores, 20 crores, but here it's 1.5. Understand, here it is 1.5, 5, and more than 5. So it's a little different. The turnovers that we are checking here and the turnover we are checking in annual return. Okay, that's it, my dear friends. And frankly speaking, okay, section 38 is something that is being repeated, what we've already done in 16 to bar. And yes, here all I have to tell you is that clearly, guys, okay, understand that if in case, my dear friends, okay, a registered person shall not be allowed to furnish details of outward supplies in form GSTR 1 if he has not furnished the return in 3B for the preceding financial year. So here, understand that you will be debarred from filing GSTR 1 if you have not filed your previous month ka 3B. And second is, a registered person opting for QRMP scheme shall not be allowed to furnish details of GSTR 1 or your IFF invoice furnishing facility if he has not furnished return in the form of 3B for the preceding tax period. That will obviously be a quarter. So ये monthly and quarterly दोनों के लिए क्या है, चेतावनी है. Both of them have to get cautioned, right? And with respect to this, my dear friends, the second part, okay. So initially you needed the signature of chartered accountant or a CMA if you were supposed to file, okay, an audited financial statements along with your annual return, especially when you exceeded 2 crores, which was the GST limit out there. But now government says that filing annual return will be on self-certification basis. Okay, you are not supposed to take attestation from any CA or CMA. Okay, perfect. That's the only thing that is required. Okay, So it's self-certified. You will only sign by yourself and you can just give it out. Okay? Perfect. And there is one more actually, that is what they've introduced, Rule 88C. If you will check our summary book, returns chapter पे आता हूँ. Yeah, so I was talking about this, guys. This is also an amendment. Please add it. Please add it, guys. Yeah. This is also an amendment, right? So I'll be attaching both these notes and the statutory amendment that I've compiled. So Rule 88C basically says that if the liability of GSTR 1, understand, is more than what is visible in 3B, then registered person shall be intimated of such difference. If he pays the difference or explains a reasonable reply within 7 days, then simple, I will have the option of reviewing the reply. But if he does not do that within 7 days, neither he pays nor replies, then the recovery starts under section 79. Okay, so it's very important that he gives a reply or pays the tax. Otherwise, recovery will start, and recovery starts in a way that your assets will start getting sold, your debtors will start being called, right? Your immovable property will be on auction, something like that. Okay, and registered person to whom an intimation is issued shall be debarred from filing GSTR 1 and IFF, which is why, understand, okay, this is what I have written here, that there are 3 cases, okay, so which is also asked in the exam, by the way, in your November 22 or I guess May 23 exam, that which are the cases where you will be debarred from GSTR 1. So 2 cases we already know, right? When you are not filing your preceding month ka 3B or preceding tax period ka 3B in case of QRMP scheme. And third happens with respect to Rule 88C, where you don't reply within 7 days or you don't pay tax within 7 days, right? Your GSTR 1 will be debarred. Got it? So government really is taking this seriously, because government started realizing that, boss, this guy is furnishing in GSTR 1 but not paying tax under 3B. Now I need to take action so that he starts getting serious, and exactly the data that is furnished in 1 is furnished in 3. That's it. Okay. So that's all, my dear friends. That's all from my side. I hope you all have understood all the amendments, and I hope you all have uh, clearly got the idea of where the changes have happened in indirect tax, right? All the changes are covered under the summary notes, and where they are not, I have already mentioned it while I was teaching you guys. I hope this explanation, this 2 hours that we've spent, were fruitful, it made sense, and it helped you, right? In case you want to refer back, you can always refer back, but frankly speaking, in summary notes, we have covered everything. So don't worry, my dear friends. And yeah, in case you feel like adding something, you can always add it. Those are your notes. Whatever you are comfortable with, you can do that. Right? So, guys, thanks a lot for staying by. Okay, again, a very, very, very important, okay, uh, request from my side. Please comment, please like, please share, please comment, please comment. Okay, please comment, guys. It's time that you also help your sir reach the moon, just like Chandrayaan. Okay, because my effort is always there to help you and to help you reach the moon, which is our upcoming inter-CA exams. Okay, so please comment, guys. Please like and please subscribe. Thanks a lot, guys. Wish you all the very best. I really hope that this November attempt we are killing it, right? अच्छा अपना नेक्स्ट वाइवा कब है? व्हेन आर वी हैविंग अ नेक्स्ट वाइवास गाइस? आर वी हैविंग इट टुमारो? आर वी हैविंग इट टुमारो गाइस? व्हेन आर द नेक्स्ट वाइवास? Shreya Prabhu, yes, it will be uploaded. But if you are in hurry, you can definitely refer to the video of CA final where it is given in the timestamp. You can refer that for now. Okay. Okay, Rakshit. Fine. Okay. Today at 1:30. Rakshit, is it today at 1:30 or tomorrow? I guess it is tomorrow. Okay, guys. Yeah. Whatever the updates, you just refer to the Telegram channel and we will get it. Yes, today is final CA.